part of the Earglue Media family of podcasts.
You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 307, Rey is a Skywalker. Yes, after nearly 5 years almost of speculation, a number of shows, tinfoil hat theories, and you name it, we're finally at the end of the Skywalker saga, and the definitive answer, at least from J.J. Abrams and team, is that Rey is a Skywalker. We're here to debate that, maybe talk about it a little bit more. This episode is focused on Rey, so we're going to, try to break her down and kind of go over some of the bigger happenings in this story, as well as maybe how that tied back to part 7 and part 8, and then maybe speculate at the very end where we think the character may be going at that point. And joining me tonight is none other than the producer, executive creator of the Cantina Cast. It's all the Sith. Mr. Mike Rondo is back with us today. Mike, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, and the only reason I'm here is because I know I dissatisfied two people, listeners of ours, and so I decided to come back to annoy them. One wants me to completely be retired. The other one thinks I'm a complete buffoon because I can't say Sigourney Weaver or Gina Carano, apparently, because I misspoke. So I came back just to annoy the heck out of all of you two. Yeah. But no, I'm only here to fill in.
Jonesy's that's not feeling well this week, and so we were putting it off, and
neither is Albert, to be honest. So,
as you can tell, my voice is a little deep right now, so I hope you enjoy that.
Yeah, whoa, hey, easy. Don't get the ladies excited. So, listen, if I don't edit out any coughs, it's because, well, he did it too many times and I was too lazy. So, that's where we're at.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for being here, Mike. Thanks for jumping in last minute.
Well, this is going to be interesting because I was part of the show where we said Rey is not a Skywalker. And now I'm on it where we are, well, even though I think he shoehorned this whole Rey as a Skywalker, but we'll get into that later on. I did say that the first, the whole, when the show came out, when the episode came out, I said that night, but we'll get into that in a moment.
I mean, the title of this episode is purposeful. It flies in the face of what you guys did back when you all talked about this. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, technically we're right, but
if we'll get to that. You guys said she was 8 million things, so like we said.
No, didn't we all? Right. We all threw everything against the wall.
Something's gotta stick.
She was like Watto's daughter, for God's sakes, at one point. But
didn't pan out. We had a couple.
I had money.
We got one quick thing for news. I thought because it really hasn't been a whole lot, and maybe that's a good thing. I think they're just kind of getting through earnings and reviews, and still dealing with some of the I don't know, the uprising. We can talk about that maybe another time. But the Rise of Skywalker. Picked up $500 million opening weekend. It had a Monday opening of, Monday total of $29 million. And all that to say, we're recording this now on the 26th of December, so just after Christmas. But it's actually doing really, really well and better than expected. And there's probably a lot of things that are factoring into this.
School vacation.
Exactly, vacation time, the timing of it. It came out a little bit later than The Force Awakens. They don't have a lot of competition. Jumanji, I think, came out a week before, so the people that really wanted to go see Jumanji have got that out of their system, and so they're not really competing with that. And Cats, it's kind of a litter box in terms of the box office.
See, for the group that I'm in that wasn't a fan of this episode, I got my issues with it, but I get why people do like it because I get that. It could have been far worse. It could have been Cats. Right. We could have got something like that. So look at it that way. That's how I'm looking at it. But anyway, continue, sir.
It's doing better than expected. So that's all. That's a good thing. And then of course we've got the critic rating versus the audience rating are completely polar opposites, almost very similar to what happened with Last Jedi.
I have to say though, and it's not that I want to agree with a certain sect of the fandom or whatever with the Rotten Tomatoes score, but it does seem a little weird that it's just dead set on. It was at the time of this recording, I guess, at 86. It's been that way for a whole week. I figured it would go to it would dip down to 80, then maybe 70, then go back up to like 85 or like I'd expect some fluctuation, and it's just been dead set. Like the needle's been stuck. So that seems a little weird, but that whole thing never really did anything for me anyway. So those whole things are like, whatever. I figured most audience would see it as a good thing, and it would get a decent rating because I get it. JJ hit the nostalgia button there. So a lot of the original trilogy fans are going to be happy and satisfied with it. So I get that. So it's not a big thing there. And I think the funny thing is I wasn't shocked over the 29 million on Monday. Like that didn't shock. I'm like, people are off. People are wanting to do something during the holidays. This is what's going to happen this week. I think next week it'll start to die down again, and then we'll settle into where we, a happy medium betwing this and that, and we'll be fine.
Yeah. How was the theater? No, you went today with your daughter for the first time. How did that go? Yes. And was the theater crowded?
Well, we went at a 10 a.m. show, so we got there a little early. It was a decent crowd for 10 a.m. the day after Christmas. I thought it was all right. And I'm just thankful. It got a little busy. I'm just thankful my daughter mentioned, hey, we got our tickets the night before. Why don't you use the kiosk? Because normally I just go up because it's not that busy where the one I go to. I can go up to the window and just give them my credit card, and they're like, all right, here you go. Here's your tickets that you pre-order. So I decided, all right, I'll use the kiosks. And I did that, and it saved us time. We walked in and we saw it. It was a decent crowd for 10 a.m. Opening night was really good, as I expected. It wasn't it is what it was. So I think they've been pretty good crowds for the two times that I've seen. A lot of
interaction,
so,
people cheering, clapping, any of that stuff?
Not so much today. It was a little more subdued today, although we had clapping at a few points at the end of the movie. Not necessarily when Rey ignites the saber and sees Luke and Leia, but when Ben sacrificed himself and died, like when Rey defeated the Emperor, that was, cheering, a little bit of clapping. Not like opening night. Opening night's a different animal. We got all us crazy Star Wars fans. They were hooting and hollering. I did see one kid bring in the saber. My daughter was jealous that she didn't bring hers, but I said, we're not doing that. Of course, we could have used it, though, because walking into the theater, it was like the first showing, so the lights weren't even on. We all had our phones walking around.
It was pitch black.
Oh, hey, there we go. Yeah, it was pitch black. So, but otherwise, I thought it was pretty decent. I figured this week would be pretty good, and it would settle in at a pretty good. Is it going to beat The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi? No, I don't think so, but it might settle in somewhere in between or just maybe below The Last Jedi or something. But we discussed on this show long ago that the third one usually still falls short compared to the other two. So this is just on par for what it is. But, everybody thinks the sky's falling, of course, with Star Wars, if one thing doesn't go this way or that way. But anyway.
And from my perspective, I'm finally going to be taking the kids to see it this weekend. And I was looking at tickets for tomorrow, and I can't get a good seat until maybe about 5 o'clock. And even then, it's not that great. And everything tomorrow night's pretty much sold out. So, I mean, that's a pretty good indicator that, at least to your point, it's just, I think it speaks to the fact that a lot of people are still off and have free time and kids are home. So what do you do?
And not only that, I think a lot of us that went that first the first weekend, right? It was satisfying enough where it's like, hey, go check it out. And I think other people are doing that now. Like, the doom and gloom was kind of, it's like, well, I have problems with it, but you should check it out type of thing. And people are going to do that. Yeah. Yeah. I think overall it's not that bad. I mean, JJ, I don't think he hit a home run, but he hit the nostalgia button for a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to be satisfied for it. Now, someone like me, I got lots of questions because I've been breaking things down for 6 years. So a lot of things didn't go, I don't know, just they didn't settle well with me. But I've been dealing with that for 2-3 years now. So it's par for the course for me. Yeah. But anyway, let's get into this, sir.
Let's talk about Miss Rey Skywalker. And I thought we'd break this down. So this was a little difficult to kind of put together because on one hand, I wanted to talk about the character as she stood on her own within, this movie. But then I thought, well, at some point, and we're going to have to probably come back to this one, honestly, and I don't know how we'll tackle this just yet, but I do want to come back and say, okay, how does she fit into the overall trilogy? And then how did she fit into the overall saga? I think that last one's probably something we'll revisit. We'll touch on the second one there, or the first one about how she fits into the trilogy. We're going to have to naturally kind of talk about that. But
yeah, that's probably a character dissection
for sure.
If I had to.
So what I thought we'd do is just kind of take act 1, act 2, act 3, kind of hit some of the big boulders in terms of what happened, some of the things that stood out. And then I've got some things at the very end that I want to talk about with regards to her lineage and powers. And then maybe again, what we expect from her going forward. from Disney and Lucasfilm. So let's start with Act 1. And let's start with training with Master Leia, because this was something, if I'm not mistaken, and you have to, I don't know if you remember, but wasn't there supposed to be a scene in The Last Jedi where Luke was doing what we see her doing at the beginning, where he was floating the levitating rocks or something?
Yeah, that was the rumor that at the end of The Force Awakens, he was supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
And that's why Mark Hamill was concerned about something with the script or whatever when he was reading, I guess, Ryan's, and then he called JJ and JJ said, no, I edited it out or whatever he was doing or whatever. But it seems like they did this here, which was really a weird scene, not so much floating and doing the rocks. I think how she stopped doing it, did the dance to come back down to Earth. I don't know. It just seemed
the way
weird to me,
down,
but yeah, the way she did that, I'm like, oh. I mean, it was cool, but it just seemed weird to me. But
here's the thing I had. The question I had about this though was, she's sitting there, and the entire time as she's trying to commune with the last of the Jedi, if you will. She kept saying, "Be with me, be with me," and I don't know that they really ever explained this. I mean, obviously they were setting it up at the very end, but any thoughts about what she was trying to do or why she was trying to commune with them at that point?
Well, at that point, had I not known the spoilers, I would assume she was trying to communicate with Luke. If I hadn't known the spoilers, like if I hadn't gone into things or whatever, I would probably say, oh, she's trying to get in touch with like Luke or maybe Yoda or somebody like that. And, that it's one of those things that's in this movie that, we had so much thrown at us that we didn't have a time to even think. So I think most of the audience just kind of went with it at this point and we just went rolling on by with BB-8 there. We just kept trucking along and didn't have time to think about it. But I was like, well, all right, obviously this plays into, because I knew the spoilers, what happens at the end there. I thought it was interesting. The only thing, the problem I have with the training with Master Leia, now I liked it and it was a good try at it, but the problem is, and this is a dark cloud that's hung over the whole sequel trilogy, is when Carrie Fisher passed, because I think this put a gaping hole in what could have been, so to speak. So the stuff they used, the footage that they used, I thought it was a little wonky. And I thought even this, like with training with Leia was like, it could have been so much better and different if Carrie had been around. I think fair. Like and it's fair. And that's no slight on JJ at this point for this, or even Daisy Ridley at this, because they did what they could. And I think they did as well as they could. It's just like, man, like thinking in my side, like my head, like as a fan, like, this could have been so much better.
Right. It could have been her acting as like the old master and
yes.
I don't know. It kind of like we saw with Yoda. I think of like Miyagi and Karate Kid, right? All these where, she's very getting whipped into shape by her. And maybe they probably would have had to use CGI for her at some point because she's, not the most agile person even at her age before she passed.
But even in the lines, like you got here, there's so much I want to tell you. Well, tell me when you get back. But, it kind of doesn't make sense because of what she sacrifices with Ben and all that other stuff. Like you kind of knew she knew things. And then I had an issue with like Luke with telling the story that, well, we'll get in. That's a whole other show. We won't even get into that here. But anyway, get back to the training
so
here.
The reason I posed the question about whether she was, or who she was trying, or why she was trying to say and speak to the Force Ghost is because I guess I would have assumed in the year that passed between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker with the books and all that she would have been communing with them already. And I guess this would lead me to believe that she's not, and she's not been able to make contact. And then the first time she actually is able to make contact isn't until she gets to Act 2, where she sees Luke Skywalker and, and then finally obviously at the very end where they all kind of talk to her. But I don't know. I guess that was just a little, I was taken back by that. I would have expected her, as somebody as powerful as she is, to have already had a chance to speak with these folks in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we'd had JJ showed her like reading the book, like she was reading the Wayfinder thing, like I saw her today, she was reading the Wayfinder thing. Of course, it conveniently she was reading it, and then all of a sudden it gets brought up again. But anyway, I would think if she would just been prior, like reading one of those books about maybe communicating, and then we saw her doing this, it might have made sense. But then again, JJ had a lot to get out of there and throw at us. He didn't have time to really explain too much. Like, I mean, the bigger thing is, how did Palpatine come back from the thing. We don't get any mention of that. It's like, yeah, I died and things are unnatural and I have my ways type of thing. So it's like, all right, we're going with this.
Yeah.
So I guess this is kind of the same thing, if you will, with that.
Any thoughts about what?
I didn't have a problem.
Yeah, any thoughts about what she wanted to tell Leia?
Not really. I'm just surprised she didn't, because she confided in Finn about it in a way, right? She kind of didn't really. She kind of just was open about it, really.
You talking about the seeing her and Kylo on the throne?
Yeah, that whole thing. Like, she kind of admitted to Finn there, like, "Hey, I'm this." Sort of like she kind of said, "This is kind of where I'm going." Whereas Leia, she just couldn't say for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because it's Leia, and she's like a mom figure to her, and a Luke's sister, and all that other stuff, and with the history, maybe that's why. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of where I was going. I mean, I figured if there was anything, the only thing that I guess I would have ventured a guess at was just that she was trying to muster the courage to finally tell Leia that she's had visions of her going to the dark side. And we'll come back to this in a second, because I think that's a very interesting, I guess, perspective, because Leia, we're going to get into her being a Palpatine. The question of whether or not Leia knew that she was a Palpatine. And I think the answer is yes, right? So,
Luke says much.
Like she went on to train her, right?
Yeah, and then that kind of plays into what she says. Rey, never be afraid of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of like you could look at it this way. You'd have to look at backwards from when Luke says that. You have to go back in your mind to when Leia says this to Rey, as like Leia knew, and you could have confided in Leia, and she wouldn't have cared, because, like as Luke said, he could sense your spirit. Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing. So. I think it was more of Rey trying to find the courage of kind of just admitting, maybe more to herself than anything else, that's who she really was. And Kylo was trying to get it out of her, right? The whole time he was trying to coax her, like giving her little hints and trying to force it to come out of her. Once he found out when she did the lightning thing, like, oh yeah, you're definitely a Palpatine, that type of thing. So, and even us as an audience kind of could put the pieces together right then and there. And it was Rey just coming to terms with it.
And I took that line, the next line, that you mentioned, where she says, she says, Rey, never be afraid of who you are. I took that to be, okay, she obviously knows what Rey is trying to tell her. And without trying to have that difficult conversation, she's trying to let her know that, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be afraid of that kind of thing. But yeah, to your point, I think it would have been interesting if they had spent just a little bit more time there. And obviously they could not. Here's something else, though. The one that, and this one's still gnawing at me a little bit, but we left The Last Jedi, and even in The Force Awakens, let's go back to The Force Awakens, because when The Force Awakens came out, we were told, and I think we have a visual dictionary that even has this, that this was now Rey's lightsaber. And then we get into The Last Jedi. There's no reason to believe that it's not her lightsaber. It ends with the lightsaber being broken, and, Leia makes a comment about we have everything we need here, and obviously we figure they're going to have to repair the lightsaber, but then she makes a comment to her that she tries to hand it back to her and says that she'll, someday she's going to feel worthy of earning her brother's lightsaber. And I guess that doesn't jive with me. Why does she feel like she still has to earn it when she went through all of what she did in the first two movies and the lightsaber called out to her, right?
Yeah. Well, it could be because she's coming to terms with who she really is. And she feels like she's not good, like pure enough. Like she's getting these thoughts of the dark side in her. And she's piecing together her real lineage and Palpatine and all that stuff that's in her head. And she's probably struggling with the fact that, well, this is a legendary lightsaber from a hero, Luke Skywalker. Of course, Anakin had that saber and did a lot of bad things with it. So, I mean, it's cool. So I don't know. It was a little wonky because we see her in two movies wield the lightsaber pretty damn well, and now you're saying you're struggling with it. Maybe because it's been repaired. Yeah. I don't know, but it didn't seem. I had a little. It's one of those things. It happens, and you got to kind of like, all right, whatever. We're moving on to something else because JJ's got something else thrown at us, and we're moving on from that. You know what I mean? So we don't have time to sit there, and that's kind of the flaw I have with the movie is JJ throwing all this stuff. But that's for another time.
I mean, it's more. But again,
I think it was, yeah, which drives me absolutely. At this point in the third final movie, we don't need to do mystery box nonsense. But that's for me to get over, I guess. But in any case, yeah, it seemed a little wonky, but I kind of was like, all right, well, cool, we'll move on. I get over it. It was no big deal.
So the next thing I want to talk about, and this isn't really so much an act 1 as it is pretty much throughout the movie, but I thought we just kind of touch on the powers because I couldn't think of a really good place to kind of insert these in there, and we can maybe lean back on them as we continue to move forward. But there were a couple of things that we noticed, and when we going into this movie, we had heard from J.J. Abrams that we were going to see force powers that we had never seen before, at least not in canon anyways. And so we had the healing, the transfer of life. We talked about Jonesy and I talked about that on the reaction show and how that it's a cool power, but the way they kind of set it up probably didn't need to happen. Plus we had, Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian already do it as well. This is a power, honestly, and this is where I'm going to get Pablo Hidalgo on you, but because I know you love this. In the old role-playing game from West End Games, there were Jedi powers in there where you could transfer life and all that. And we never saw that.
Yeah, because you needed that for a game, right?
Absolutely.
You needed it
because you got to heal people.
Yeah, you don't need that. You don't need that
for the movies.
But a game you kind of need that. But I don't have a problem with the healing things. You think Jedi would be more healers anyway. And there's that old EU stuff where they were Jedi healers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Ones that didn't become full-fledged Jedi Knights or whatever. They were healers or something. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I saw the Yoda arc today with my daughter, because when she got home and she was all excited, she's doing her Star Wars research. I guess she's starting her own Star Wars podcast or whatever. So she's watching that, and you had the doctor. I don't know if she was a Jedi, but she was a Force sensitive, I assume, when she's treating Yoda.
Oh, you're talking about
so I'm wondering
Clone
if
Wars.
Yes, exactly, in the Clone Wars, in the Yoda, the last series, the Lost Missions there. And I'm thinking to myself now, just as I'm thinking, I'm like, did they ever say that she was Force sensitive at all? I don't.
I'd have to go back and watch.
I don't know if she was or not.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up in the dictionary there or something and check it out, or her character profile or whatever. But this is nothing new with Jedi's kind of heal and stuff. And I wasn't surprised. I think the only problem I had was the execution of it. Like, all right, we just saw Baby Yoda do it. Great timing, wink, wink. But I thought it would have had more. And I think when I was editing the last show, when you guys had your reaction show and you guys were talking about it, I'm saying to myself, it would have been better if they just did it with Kylo. I think it would have meant more. Like, she saved him right then and there, and that would be the first moment we see it, and it would have been impactful.
That's what we said on the show.
So that's basically. So I mean, that for me, that's how I would have done it. But I didn't have a problem with the Force powers in general. This is stuff that I would have wanted a while back anyway. Some of the stuff you would have wanted to see Anakin kind of do.
We got we got some Force Unleashed stuff with the Force Lightning, obviously, and then with her holding back a ship. When that scene happened, I thought, oh my gosh, is she really going to like pull this down? Because we were joking about it before. I think on the show with Michaela,
I did say,
we were joking about she was going to pull a Star Destroyer down. But this is about as close as we got to that. So both of those were, I guess, kind of new. Vader had a shot at. You could argue Vader had a chance to try to stop the Millennium Falcon on Empire when he walks into the hangar and they're about to take off from Hoth. He never even tries to do that. So the fact that she just instinctively reached out, did that.
Well, he would have blew a few gaskets in his mechanical hands. So he's like, I don't feel like going to the repair shop today. I ain't doing that. It's cold. I'm tired already. The battle. I'm just out here, man. I'm going to my house.
Here's a power that I don't know, and I haven't had a chance to go through the visual dictionary completely yet. And so far, I've not seen anything in there. But there was a point in the movie where she was holding the dagger, and she makes a comment. She says, "Horrible things have happened with this," and meaning the dagger itself.
Yeah,
and I immediately thought of Quinlan Voss and his retrocognition that he's got.
Yeah. And the kid from Cal there, right? From the game.
So he's got it too. So and
well, I think Rey and Kylo and even Palpatine have every power known to humanity these days. Like, it seemed like they were all OP on me. Like, whoa, geez, like they all went to God mode, especially the Emperor. Like, man, guys shooting lightning all over the place. It was crazy. It was fun.
This is like I mean, Force powers in the level of like the Old Republic stuff is what we're seeing for the first time in canon. So. Which
wasn't bad. I didn't have a problem with it. So I mean, I like that we got some Force powers, not like fancy lightsabers and fancy kind of combat moves. Like I like that she stopped the blade, right? and then I like that he did it too, but he was pushing her, you like saw like her saber kind of doing this melt thing, right? Like he was pushing the whole blade or something, like it was just like peeling or whatever. She didn't do that. She just held it. He was just like, wanting to disintegrate it or something, whatever he was doing. So, but yeah, I thought it was interesting. It was a good dynamic. The powers, I like that. I always wanted to see more of the force powers like that and spiritual type force powers, and we don't get that, sadly, because I don't think it makes for dramatic effect in a movie so much, although they did it kind of here. So, I didn't have a problem with it. I think the ship one was kind of like, all right. And then we got both of them doing it. I'm like, oh, here we go. I don't know. That one was a little over the top for me, but otherwise, we had them,
I guess, force flying, right? We had, she jumped to the ship.
Yeah.
That was not a normal jump. And then later on, when he comes out of the pit, he does that leap, like flying across, jumps and lands behind that one. It was a Knight of Ren that he stabs. Excuse me. That was kind of new. When we get to Ben, we'll talk about his too, because there's another, him getting, I don't want to do it right now. Don't spoil it. We'll talk about another power too, but I'm going to go back to the comic on this one. But anyways, and then what was the last one? There was another one that happened with her. The reason I brought all this up was because we're obviously seeing Rey at a level that we've not seen. We can speculate that Luke was probably at this level, right? Given everything that we've heard and read about.
Yeah, we just never got to see it. We never got to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Anakin could have been this, but he, things happen, as we know, thanks Obi-Wan. So he was always, as I always said, he did the Emperor a favor, because had Anakin not been injured like that, he probably would have taken down the Emperor long ago. But that's my theory that I had going on.
But yeah, no, it was like the other ones were like the force push, right? When she pushed Finn back. We talked about transferring of objects to the Force, which was kind of hinted at in The Last Jedi. Now it fully manifested here. So I mean, it's just a lot of cool stuff that they've done. And I want to come back to this in a second, because I think this is going to play into the question about where does she go from here and what does the future look like for Rey? Somebody that powerful running around the galaxy is kind of a game changer, All right, well, let's get into Act 2. And we'll start with the battle of Kylo Ren over on the Death Star. It was cool leading up into that to get to see her back to her roots as a scavenger, jumping around inside the Death Star. That was pretty neat. But then, once that whole battle happened, I've seen a lot of people complaining about it, saying that it wasn't as exciting and it wasn't as over the top as they wanted it to be and that sort of thing. And I didn't get that.
It wasn't meant to be.
No, that's how I feel too. Like it felt like that was exactly what it needed to be. It was Kylo Ren very controlling the entire time. You could tell he wasn't really on the offensive so much, right? He was just parrying.
Well, he was winning. He was gonna win.
Wearing her out.
He was gonna win.
She looked exhausted at times, and it was really just more of subduing from her part.
Because he played into her emotions. She was emotionally drained, which caused her to be in the position she was. Like she was giving into the dark side, so to speak. That's what they do. They let you get your emotions. You get drained like that, and then you're beaten. And I think he was actually going to kill her. I don't think he was going to save her at that point. I think he was like, I'm done with you, so I'm just going to kill you. That's how I interpreted today when I saw it. I'm like, well, he's just going to kill her because he had her. She wasn't going to win. And Leia, of course, senses that and does what Leia does and pulls the mom card. Although I wonder why she didn't do this a movie ago or 2 or 3 or, whatever. I know it cost Maz, your favorite person, explains it all conveniently. And, she, passes on or whatever because it took all, just like Luke with the force projection thing. I get that. But as far as the battle goes, the battle was meant to be this kind of conflict. It was supposed to be a decent battle, not the pinnacle battle, because that's at the end, right? So we got to have something that's good, but not topping the end, right? So this is what it was. I have a problem with the lightsaber combat throughout the sequel trilogy. I don't think it's been as good as any of the other 2 trilogies, in my own opinion. Have there been good moments? I just think, I don't know, it seemed very clunky and wonky at times to me. I don't know, maybe that's just me. That's just how I see it. Although this one I thought was pretty good, to be honest. I like the flipping and like we just said, the force powers that came into play. I thought this was a pretty good battle. Now the whole Death Star thing, I mean, I don't know. Did we really need to go there for but the whole Wayfinder thing and the convenient of you hold the thing up and we go Goonies and it latches up to the wreckage.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that was a little weird. But, it is what it is. I had no problem with the battle on the Death Star. I thought it was pretty cool. And, even the music, when Rey enters that Death Star, you hear the theme that you hear when Luke takes the mask off of Vader and stuff. It was good. I thought that was pretty good. Now, I'm trying to think of myself when I'm watching that scene. I'm like, now where did the Emperor's closet go on Return of the Jedi? Because when it was on the other day, I'm watching, like, now where is that closet? And I couldn't find it. But we got to suspend our imagination, I guess.
So. For sure.
Yes.
So anyway. I think I have a different take on it. I don't know that he was going to kill her.
Okay.
Only because earlier on they were having that whole scene together where he says Palpatine wants you dead, and then she says serving another master. And he says, no, I have other plans. I offered you my hand once. You wanted to take it. Why didn't you? You can't hide, not for me. It just seems like that was him telling her that, trying to convince her that he was not serving Palpatine, that he wanted something else to go. And I don't think
I can see that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to go back and look at it, I guess, and see if that's
I think I'm just going by the moment. It looked like he'd just been like, I've had enough dealing with you and trying to convince you. I'm just going to end this. Like, it seemed like that at that moment. Like, he'd gotten to that point, or he was going to, like, chop a hand off and, cause that problem. Maybe that's what he was going to do. I don't know. It just seemed like he was, like, done with all the drama, so to speak. Yeah. But then, of course, Mom reaches out and, we get the saber in the gut.
So she stabs him in the gut, right? And he drops, and we get there's a moment there where he stops, and that's when she takes advantage of, using his saber and all that to kill him or stab him. But then she goes and saves his life.
Yeah. Well, that's because Leia, she felt it all. And
they don't really get into that, but I mean, is that what your theory is?
No. Yeah, and I think she realized Leia had passed. She felt the whole thing, and, I think she's like, oh, crap, this is not the way that I want to go. It's also Rey rejecting that dark side of herself. Like, you know what I mean? Like Luke, it was very similar in Luke's journey here with Rey, where being tempted, and she says no. And ultimately she flirts with it, but she says no. And I think she had that moment where she kind of crossed the threshold. Like Luke with the saber on his father, he's, whacking it, cuts the hand off in Return of the Jedi. And then he's like, no, I don't want to go down that road. And I think that was kind of like the same moment, which is fitting because they were on the Death Star. And she pulls herself back. And of course, Leia helps, which makes Leia's death more prominent, right? It gives more weight to that as well. So it wasn't in vain either, because it saved basically the two of them, because it saved Ben and it saved Rey from going to the dark side. So it all works out. I didn't have a problem. The only problem I really had with the whole battle was when they slow things down. I hate that whole slow things down with the slow mode thing. That drives me. That happened in The Force Awakens. It drove me nuts then, and it drove me nuts now. Now, when Leia was dying, it made sense because it was communicating through the Force type of stuff. So I didn't have a problem with that. But I don't know. I hate that stuff.
Yeah, that's more.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's our JJ's artistic, take or spin on it.
But it doesn't feel Star Wars when he does that. That just drives me crazy. But it's a new age. I gotta accept these things, and that's the way it is. But I didn't mind when Ben was feeling his mother communicate with him, and when Rey did what she did and stabbed him and then said Leia, and then they had that whole moment. That it fit that moment, right? Because it's a moment in the Force. So I got that. So it didn't bother me too much. But anyway, overall, I think that's where we're going when that whole thing happens with Rey senses it, and then she rejects going that way, and then this is where Ben comes back. So it worked on both. They're a dyad, right? So it worked on both ways, if you will.
That Force bond between them two. I forget today, I was reading something, I want to say it was Matt Martin had made a comment. Someone had asked Matt Martin about, and for those of you who don't know, he's at Missing Words on Twitter. He's one of part of the Lucasfilm story group. Someone had asked him, now that the Force bond, now that Kylo Ren or Ben Solo's dead, does that mean that the Force bond's gone and over with? And his only response was, that's a question to ask me in 2020. So, well,
I don't think so. It's almost like Luke, like and Ben, when they die, that doesn't mean they're not there, right?
Right. No.
So I imagine,
but is the bond still there? Does it like transcend, right, the living life or the afterlife in some way?
Well, I don't know, because here's the thing with the whole people dying and then they just seem to come back like Palpatine. So I mean, is Luke really even dead? I know he came as a Force ghost, but then You got Dave hinting that maybe Ahsoka's alive and she's really not dead. So I don't know what to believe anymore. This is where you get into a little bit of trouble with the story here because we can't believe you anymore. Yeah. So I don't know how. I don't think the Bond is gone because obviously the only curious thing with the Bond, which this kind of annoyed me at the end, is that Ben wasn't next to Leia and Luke. Mm-hmm. That seemed to bother me for some reason. I don't know why. Because if we're talking like a Ben-demption or Ben was redeemed here and he just dies like Anakin did. Well, actually, like Yoda did, right? Anakin just was still there, but we assume that he, faded away like that as well. But you would think he would show up there, especially with Rey, right? So who knows? They might have something else planned in the future. I don't know. You don't know. Who the heck knows?
Well, the conspiracy theory that's out there is that...
Oh, there's luminous...
Yeah, sorry. Let me put on my tinfoil hat here. But the conspiracy theory...
that seems to be dead.
Is that he actually didn't die. That originally in the ending he lived. And there's all kinds of evidence that point to that.
Oh, listen, there's one cut of the film and this is all you get. So stop
Stay with me.
Stop
just telling you what I'm doing.
Listen, I complained and moaned about The Last Jedi for like a year and a half and I get over it. There's no other cut. Just accept it. It's canon. Move on. You'll be fine.
No, so okay. the thing is, I'm not saying there's another cut. All I'm saying is,
I know
the reason why is because if he did live, then that was actually Luke and Leia looking on Rey and Kylo, and not just Rey by herself.
Yeah. So,
well, I'm just giving you an explanation as to why.
But listen, you tell me that they're editing this film. They can't take 5 minutes to put Force Ghost Ben in there.
No,
come on, like, come on. You could do that in 10 minutes. Less, 10 minutes. Probably. Listen, I'm sure someone's going to be doing their own master cut like they do, or another cut like they do on the fan cut there, where they'll add him in or whatever, cut parts they don't like, this other stuff. Like I'll take the kiss out, and then, we'll be fine. But, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't see that. I wish he were there because I do have a problem with Ben dying the way he did, but that's, anyway, that's another show.
So
that's when we do
he
Ben
was there,
Solo.
are you saying that that would have been like truly the Skywalkers looking at him and looking down? Because then it's like, okay, so why wouldn't Anakin have been there then? Or why wasn't it just a bunch
I
of
think
them?
They all should have been. No,
and I've seen that
all
picture.
The
Somebody took everybody. Like there's Kenobi and Anakin.
No Kenobi, just the Skywalkers. Okay. It should have been that. It should have been, 9-year-old Anakin, to be honest. Actually, I'm surprised they didn't do young Luke and Leia.
True.
Like they did with Hayden, what I mean? Like that would have been. I would have done that if I was JJ, just to annoy Star Wars fans. Like,
right.
Take that.
Another curveball.
But anyway, continue,
so let's finish up with Act 2 because the only other thing that was kind of, and I shouldn't say the only other thing, but
one of the other things that
was her returning to Act 2 and finally meeting up with Luke. And it's interesting,
which is a good moment
because at this point she had resigned herself to look, this is really, I really need to get out of this. Like no good is coming out from me being out here. Luke was right. I'm going to go to Act 2. I'm going to burn down this ship and I'm never leaving, just like he chose not to leave. And it was a good moment because I think it was interesting that Luke, of all people, stopped her and said, nope, sorry, this was not the right thing to do. I admit it now. I didn't, me coming out here was not the right thing to do. And it's not the right thing for you to do. You've got a bigger part to play in all of this. And, get back on the horse there.
Well, again, this goes back to when we were discussing, was it the deleted scenes from The Last Jedi? I think it was. When we were talking about like Luke kind of talking things through with Rey or whatever it was we were discussing, or it might have been in the book. We were discussing the book where they had those scenes together. Like I liked when Luke and her were talking to each other. It was always a good conversation and we didn't get enough of that in The Last Jedi, right? Yeah. And here it was good. It was a little more, this is more the Luke Skywalker that we all know and love and remember from Return of the Jedi, which was nice, JJ. And I love the saber pot. That was a good, we'll just say it was the middle finger to Ryan. That's how I took it. But
no, I don't think it was that. But yeah, I know people think that.
I do. I'm going to think that. But you can disagree. That's fine. We'll be fine. But anyway, I thought it was a good moment. Like I liked, and again, like like we were just talking, she rejected going to the dark side when she stabs Ben and is like, I don't know what to do, but I can't be involved. I got to go away like Luke did because this power is just too much. So in that instance, it was the right thing to do. But then Luke kind of did what he was supposed to do and kind of guided her in the right moment, saying, listen, I was wrong too, man. You know, it happens. But you got a bigger role to play. You have to go and face your Palpatine and all that other stuff. Like the same thing he went through. So it was a great scene. This is what my problem is. We don't get enough of Luke and Rey together. It's always been a good dynamic conversation. We don't get enough of it. But how many conversations can you have with each other, right?
And I'm hoping we'll get more of that in the novel, right? Maybe we'll.
I'm sure we will.
There. Maybe we'll get some deleted scenes or extended scenes that were cut out. We never know.
I have a question for you though. Now, when he said my sister might have something for you, now did he walk with Rey up to those steps, or did he just like meet her? Like he's like, yeah, all right, I'll meet you up there in 5 minutes. Like did he force ghost himself over there?
Walked. I mean, if he's
you do? You
think
he's
cool enough to sit down with her, then yeah, I would think he walked with her.
Oh, so he was mentoring her as they walked out. Maybe we'll get that in the book.
Leading the way.
I hope we do. Yeah, like just kind of, hey, let's go to my old hut.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just figured, this is the stupid thing I'm thinking in the theater when he's talking to her, the second showing, I'm thinking of this. Like, did he just like meet her there and then, but anyway.
I need to actually, on that note, because this one thing that came in my mind just recently here was Leia makes that comment when they're doing the flashback and she's talking about how she has a vision. And I don't know. I need to go back and listen to it because I don't know exactly what she says anymore. But the takeaway for me was that somehow she stopped in training because she realized that something bad was going to happen to Ben Solo. But I wondered, and this is headcanon more than anything, but it would have been cool if Leia would have had some kind of vision that lightsaber needed to be passed on to somebody like Rey. And that's why they have kind of a special bond from the beginning, because this was the same girl that she had seen, 19 years ago in a vision, and why she stopped it. And that's why she gave Luke the lightsaber. It would have been neat if all of that had just played out the way, she had envisioned it at some point, or had a forced vision of that happening.
Maybe. I don't know. I have a problem with that whole thing. Like today I'm thinking to myself, all right, this is just a way to show that Leia had a saber and she trained, and they wanted to show that flashback, which I love the flashback, by the way, of them training and everything on Endor. I didn't like when Wicket showed up at the end there, but we can't have everything. So I just have a problem with that. But I think over time, again, like even with the sequel trilogy, over time, things might make more sense to me and I can analyze it a little bit better. So I don't know. Like initially I felt that was wonky and weird. I still do, but we'll find out. The book might explain a lot more, even though we shouldn't have a book to explain the movie more. It just should add to it. And I hope this just adds to the explanation of that. So we'll see. I hope we get that. And even the visual not the visual dictionary, but the art book itself, the concept art, maybe we'll get more and insight into that. So I'm sure we'll get some answers soon, I hope.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to Act 3. And I guess the big one here is obviously her confronting Granddaddy there, right? Finally coming face to face with Palpatine. So overall, were you happy with this whole, she's a Palpatine and the way she confronted him? And I mean, because it seems like she wouldn't really have she would have no fear with him. I mean, I just didn't get that she would be that scared. That she looks kind of creeped out because she doesn't know Palpatine.
I think it's more of a reflection. Yeah, but I think it's a reflection of herself. She knows what he did. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, when you're a kid, you're growing up and you're a young adult like she is, you're thinking to yourself, am I going to repeat my parents' mistakes? Am I going to repeat family history mistakes and so on and so forth? So there's that connection there. But I don't know. I don't have a problem with her being a Palpatine so much. I just think bringing Palpatine back to prove it all was kind of, okay. Why? But that's another conversation for another day.
That's coming up here in a little bit.
Yeah, all right. Well, that'll be fun. But I think, and don't get me wrong, I liked Ian, and I liked what they, like when he was there, and being the Emperor, he's always good no matter what.
Well, this is what got you all sparked up again, because you were kind of...
Exactly. I mean, I liked it, but when you sit back and you're looking at it, you're like, why did we bring him in? Why? What's going on? Why did we even do this? But I don't have a problem. Of course, the greatest thing I've ever saw on Reddit was who blanked Palpatine. That was, I want a t-shirt of that made. I'm going to probably do that. But in any case, that was my biggest issue. But I don't have a problem with her being a Palpatine. It just, I don't know. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the whole confronting? I don't have a problem with her confronting Grandpa there. I mean,
no, I think it wasn't so much if there was an issue. It was just more like when that finally happened. Did it come off as being anticlimactic? Was it what you were expected?
I think a little bit. When she first walks in there, she seems so confident and she seems so relaxed during the whole thing. Like she never had, she wasn't creeped out like my daughter when she saw Palpatine. Right. Like my daughter's like, ooh, he's creepy. Zombie Palpatine there. But I don't know. She just didn't seem, I don't know. Seemed okay to me. I didn't have a problem with it. Again, I think I was maybe too focused on Palpatine. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess I was okay with it too. I don't know what I was expecting with, given everything that had happened so far leading up to that moment and then her finally seeing him and being the way he was. I don't know.
I was hoping she'd say what Arnold said in Predator. One ugly.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, that would have been a great line, but you can't do that in Star Wars. But anyway. Yeah.
So she confronts him, and then we get this whole scene where we'll skip over Ben coming back and all that. But
ouch.
But yeah,
this one line yeah. Ben Solo says, "Ouch," which I thought was great. To be honest, I really love that. I don't know why, but I really did like it.
I did too. Anyway. I think like we talked about it on the reaction show. I think it was just Ben being Ben. He seemed much more. He seemed like in a better mood, especially like that moment, and then later on when he gets a lightsaber and he holds it over the side and he kind of does that little shrug kind of thing. This is all kind of like him finally being able to be himself again, which, but no, this is not about him.
No,
there's a moment in there where Palpatine mentions that he's all the Sith. And then she mentions that she's all the Jedi. And that I guess brings a lot of questions to me, at least now. And again, I haven't had a chance to go to the visual dictionary. I doubt there's much in there, honestly, about this subject at all. But the idea that all the Jedi are in her, do you think that's a physical type thing? Do you think there's something just metaphorically about it? Or is Palpatine really have all the power of the Sith and going back to Bane and everyone else?
I don't know, because I didn't really like either of that. Like, I'm all the Sith, I'm all the Jedi. All right, well, no, this doesn't, no. And then the whole occultists, which I need explanation on that. I don't have the visual dictionary, but I got to look that stuff up with all the Sith Palpatine fan club there, which I would have probably been part of that. But I don't know. All the Jedi, all the Sith, I think it was more of a metaphysical type of thing. Like, we're here to kind of support you, kind of guide you through this, and kind of, although he'd mentioned is like, you strike me down, I'll just become a part of you and possess you. But wouldn't you just become another Sith? Then that, like, all the Sith would just live through Rey, and you wouldn't be the dominant Sith. I don't know how that worked.
Yeah,
I don't know how Sith possession works. I don't know. We got to find a book on that.
My guess is that
get the Ghostbusters.
My guess is he had it like the traditional thing that would have happened was he would have been there just with all the other Sith controlling Rey or in Rey. I think Palpatine probably had figured out some way for that to happen. And going back to Momin from the comics is he's able to kind of control that body and be that person, right? And that was originally his plan until he realized that they were dyads and he could regenerate himself from, their power, that sort of thing. As far as all the Jedi versus all the Sith, I don't know myself. I'm still kind of struggling with that one in terms of what exactly that means to be all the Jedi and means to be all the Sith. It goes back to that line where Luke says it. He says it in the movie, but he says it a different way than we saw in the trailer, where he says 1,000 generations now live in you. And I think that's what they were kind of alluding to here. But I think
like the knowledge,
exactly, knowledge, the wisdom, right? The sins of the past, and then lessons learned from those. Some of the wisdom that comes from all of that is probably what they're speaking to more than a physical type thing. Yeah,
it's not like a power or anything. I think it's more of like the knowledge and, the support, so to speak.
She takes the two sword blades and melts his face off.
He becomes the Nazi guy in
Raiders of the Lost
Ark. What do you call it? The Last Crusade. Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah, where he gets melted. I don't know. So again, it was okay for me. I wasn't really that excited about the way she killed him.
No, but what were you going to do, though?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
How do you kill the guy that's already been dead? You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's one of those things, they write yourself into a corner where you're like, all right, how do we kill him? And, we can't throw him off a cliff. We can't do that. So what do we do? And I guess we got to blow him up or melt him away. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's the best you could do.
Yeah, I mean, and then plus he's on the planet. I mean, where else? I'm sure he doesn't have a backup to a backup, although he may. That'd be silly if he did.
He may.
I mean, this seems like this is the final. I don't think we're going to get any more Palpatine.
Well, he's got his clone somewhere, man.
Maybe.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, maybe they're getting all Dark Empire on us and goes to another clone here. Here's a question that I have for you, and this has come up a number of times. It's come up in Discord a couple times. It's been on Twitter a number of times, but has she brought balance to the Force again? Because we get the one line.
Anakin did that. That was Anakin.
So we had,
as far as I know.
Well, we had Anakin, right? No, I forgot.
This is what really I have a problem with, this whole thing of the boo. Now,
theory.
see if you did. Yeah, well, see if you didn't bring Palpatine in, and Rey defeated the bad guy. Okay, that's fine. Because Anakin's destiny was to just eliminate the Sith, so to speak, right? Destroy them. There's balance that way. Like there's no more Sith, or there's, whatever that whole thing is. We're not going to get into that. We've done enough shows on that. But if Rey was taking out a new bad guy, okay, I get you. Like, I agree with you. There's always going to be bad in the world. There's always going to be good in the world. And Light's going to have to meet that, right? So that's just the way it is. I get that. But the Sith should have been done when Anakin threw Palpatine over and he died. That should have been the end of it. But here we are, bringing back the bad guy because of other reasons, and I'm not going to get into those reasons now. That'll be for another day. But this is my problem. And then you throw in Anakin's voice there, just to sell it to us that she's now bringing balance to the Force. He brought balance, so she's going to bring balance. Like, where are we going here? I don't know what we're doing here. Is this just, I don't know. But maybe you can explain it to me.
Well, no, I
Maybe
can't,
you
because I can't.
okay.
I can't explain it to you because I can only tell you that what we heard is canon now.
Yeah, you gonna go with this Claudia Gray nonsense?
No. Well, I'm saying
thing that you throw
it's
me?
one of those things.
Right.
It's honestly, it's one of those things where either you accept it or you don't. And I'm not saying it's the best idea. I'm not saying it's the right idea. It is just the idea. This is what the writers have come out with and said is canon now. He says, Anakin Skywalker says, bring balance to the Force just like I did. The only thing that I can take from that is that he brought balance to the Force 100%. He fulfilled the prophecy. And now the balance is, the Force is out of balance again. And so now Rey is bringing balance to the Force. I'm not saying that I won't even go so far as to say she's
just
another
lazy shoehorn writing is what.
So I'm not going to say she's another chosen one because although I do believe that. But even if she's not, the fact that you have Anakin, who is now this deity, this extraterrestrial force in the world of Star Wars, telling her that this is what she needs to do and this is what he did, I don't see how you can not like it, but I don't think you can argue with it. That's just the way it is.
Well, that's fine, but I think it's poor writing. That's what I'm going to chalk it up to, and I'll accept it. I did with Luke dying and all that stuff. It's fine. I can live with it. It's no big deal. At the end of the day, there's worse things, right? Yeah. So it is what it is. My question to you with the Chosen One thing is then this. So Rey dies, and Ben crawls up the hole and saves her and revives her. Why didn't she, if she's such a chosen one, like Ben, did a self-sacrifice, and you could make the argument that Rey did too. Why didn't she just disappear too? Like him, like he disappeared within a few minutes, right? So why didn't she just disappear? By the time he got up there, she should have been, disappearing herself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
have a theory around that.
Oh, I look forward to it. Wasn't her time.
No, and I don't remember if I shared this on 306 or it was on Discord, but my theory was that, in fact, it was the first thing that came to mind when I first saw it the first time was, I don't think, one, she didn't die immediately. First off, because she didn't get any lessons, right? She never learned how to do this thing as far as I'm concerned, but neither did Ben Solo. The reason why Ben Solo left was because Leia took him with her. I don't know if that's 100% true or not.
I wouldn't say that. I think Leia finally let go when she knew Ben was saved. in a sense, like his soul. Like that's kind of how I took that. But no, I see what you're going with.
Like it's a mom. She waited around until her son passed away. Now that's one.
She said, "Come on, kid, we're going. We're going to Uncle Luke's. Get in the car. Come on,
put your jacket on. I've already told you twice.
Yeah. Don't make me pull this thing over."
That's one theory. I have other theories too that go into like again more conspiracy theories, which I won't get into now.
Oh, that's what we do. No, come on.
We'll say that when we get to the Ben Solo. Trust me, because we're gonna do that next. When we get to the Ben Solo, I've got all kinds of stuff for you guys to chew on here and some of it adds up, some of it does. I'm not gonna. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Trust me, I am not like that at all.
I'm bringing back the X-Files theme.
No, I'm a pretty straight shooter when it comes to whether things are real or what. If it's BS, I'll call it out. If I believe there's something there, I'll tell you. And this one. Yeah, this one does feel a little weird because of the way things are edited and stuff that we heard in interviews and all that. It's just not adding up.
Listen, there's only one cut of the film.
I'm not saying there's another cut of the film. I'm with you there. Right. There is not another cut of this film. Is there about an hour's worth of footage that never made it in here? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. That's every movie,
right?
Does
it change the narrative? Probably.
It might, but no one's going back to Tinker like George would.
It's never going to come out. McClunky. Yeah, no, I get it. It's never going to come out. This is the version.
Know what would have been great though? If Ben said McClunky when he fell.
Right.
That would have been great. That would have been awesome. That would have made it all for me. But anyway,
all the sins would have been wiped away. But for any of the bad writing,
we would have been like, it would have been great. It would have been great. Anyway,
so the next question I have is, we'll move on to the very end now in Act 3, where she finally ignites her new lightsaber, and we see it. There was one thing though that's kind of just surfaced recently, and that's only because people are starting to finally get some high definition video and footage of this stuff illegally. Mm-hmm. But there's if you go back and watch the movie, when she ignites a lightsaber, for like half a second right before she ignites it,
it's blue,
and then it turns green, like the little circles lights, right around the hilt of it. Which I thought was it is interesting that it would do that. I've never seen. I don't know if there's anything in that.
I don't think that has to do with the crystal per se, though.
You think it's just flashy?
Yeah,
special
I think
effects.
It's just
they want to look different.
I think it's just the switch itself. If you look like visual dictionary wise, if we're doing it that way, I think it has something to do with like the way that is, and then it emits the same light that the blade is for some reason. I don't know. They didn't have it in the visual dictionaries, from what I understand. No. You and Josh said it's not in there, which I found surprising. So I'm assuming this is a last minute type deal where they decide, all right, we'll throw this in there. Now my daughter came up with a theory. This is great. She thinks it's Basila Shan's saber from the Old Republic there, which I thought, I didn't even think of that. I said, oh, that's interesting. I don't think it is, because I think it looks like it's part of Rey's staff, which we all suspected at one point that was, a saber at one point. But we don't see the bottom of it. So a lot of us are speculating it's a double-bladed saber, which would make sense because she seemed to fit more into that style, so to speak. So I don't know. I mean, I liked it. It was cool to see. I just wish we got to see her use it. You know what I mean? Instead of igniting it. We didn't get to see her use it in action, which is the downfall. I guess the downside of all this is we didn't get to see her use it at all. So I'm curious about it. I want to know more. Maybe not the visual, but the concept art will have something on this at some point. I hope
we'll probably get something too. When we'll talk about this here in just a minute about whether in the future we get movies, TV shows, whatever else. I mean, this is the lightsaber we expect her to use, so we are going to get to see her use it in some way. Probably not in the movies. But I
don't know if we'll see it anytime soon.
Yeah, no,
we'll get to that. We'll get that.
But yeah, the topic or discussion around whether it's single versus double. There's been some discussion around Sentinels used to use this, Jedi Temple Guards used to use the yellow blade. How did she get it? And then furthermore, if the Kyber crystal calls out to you, how did when and how did it call a yellow crystal call out to her? Because we haven't seen that in ever really. So all that begs to be answered still. The question too is, you mentioned that it looks like it was made from her staff. The hilt does. I went back and looked at the pictures and found some high definition stuff, and it is almost 100% the part of her staff. Yeah, at the very end of it.
Yeah.
To the T. I mean, you could match them up almost exactly.
I like the little spikes that come out at the end. Like it made me think of Darth Maul when that happened for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, it has nothing to do with it. But
it's got an edgier look to it, right? A darker look to it than you would think a normal Jedi would wield or carry.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's Maul's crystal that Obi-Wan got, and it's purified now. Like it's healing.
No,
I don't know. Just throwing that out there. No, okay. Oh, hey, we're into conspiracy theories around here.
That's right. No, that's all fair game at this point. But yeah, whether or not it attaches, maybe it attaches to the spear and it's like a pole arm. That'd be kind of interesting and different. It'd be a double bladed.
We need the nunchucks though.
Yeah, we need those.
That's the lightsaber nunchucks.
I haven't seen that yet.
Someday.
No, not yet. And then at the very end here, and this is there's a lot of fuss about this, but the living on Tatooine, the final shot is obviously her standing there with BB-8. And I think this has rubbed people some wrong way because I think the impression that it's leaving is that somebody who is lonely, has grown up on a desert planet, was longing for family and adventure, or just get off of that they've resigned themselves to living on a lonely, desolate planet with no human beings and a robot and a droid. But I didn't take it that way. This to me was like, if you go back to Joseph Campbell, which we probably need to do at some point. It's the return to home. Exactly. It's the return to home. And although it's not Jakku, the fact that she's returning to Tatooine, where all of this started, kind of plays into that overall hero's journey. And I think really that's as innocently, I think this was just an innocent way for them to say, look, she's here on Tatooine. Check it out. Here are the twin sons. This is where
I think it's
Luke
also
started. But this is not where she's going to end up. I don't think she's resigned herself to, I'm just going to wander around Tatooine and be lonely the rest of my life. I don't think that's Rey at all. I don't think that's the character.
Well, I think it was also finding peace for her side of being a Palpatine and the Skywalkers themselves, and putting it to rest and a proper burial in a sense in her mind, like coming to peace with all of that and moving on. I think that's my problem is we didn't get Kylo's Force Ghost. R2 and C-3PO should have been there to witness it, because it should have been that, but that's a whole other thing. Someone joked about it. I think it was our friend Kevin Lyle, I think it was, that the woman that asked Rey that question was supposed to be Luke's friend there, the one that calls him Wormy or whatever. I forget her name there. I'll probably get yelled at for not remembering her name too. So, but yeah, I thought that would have been great, like a little, nod to that in the past, because there hasn't been anyone there. But I thought it was okay. I know Morgan was excited, especially when she ignited the lightsaber and she saw Leia and Luke and stuff. She was happy with that. I was okay with it. I just think it would have been better. They could have done better. I don't know. I mean, it was fine. I was at peace with it, but I can see why people would get riled up a little. So I don't know. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, what were you going to do? I'll ask, as anyone that criticizes any of these films, and even myself, I have to ask myself, well, what would you have done? What would you do? And you probably couldn't come up with anything, right? So, all right. So we are where we are, right?
I think so. Does she end up with BB-8 in the Falcon? Are those hers now?
No, I don't think so. I think BB went with her. Now, how do we know Poe wasn't and Finn wasn't on that ship at that time?
No,
and they just, like they were in the ship in the other one. They were kind of giving her a moment. Maybe they were giving her a moment, Yeah. So I'm just saying that's a possibility. I mean, Chewie should have been there with her. I don't know.
So your final scene is the entire cast and all of Force Ghosts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, actually, they should have been in the cantina. They should have been in the cantina, chilling out. That's all I'm saying. But no, I don't know. I don't know what you would do there. I mean, I like that they ended with the sunset and all that. I just think having R2 and like maybe C-3PO there would have been more impactful than BB-8, I guess. But I know BB started the journey with her, so you got to do what you got to do there. So I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with it. It is what it is.
So quickly, and this is not really a question, but I've seen this we never really got a whole lot of answers from the cave scene in The Last Jedi. I think one of the coolest things I've seen so far, and it's not my own, is just the fact that seeing multiple versions of herself, calls back to the generation of, or all of the Jedi, that really that's what she was seeing in herself. And so, I don't know, maybe we'll get some more explanation about the cave scene, because that still doesn't really make a whole lot of sense now, especially in light of the
even
rise of Skywalker.
the vision still doesn't really make
we didn't even touch on that. All right.
So, I mean, a lot of things, this is my biggest issue with this whole sequel trilogy, is a lot of things, we got more unanswered questions than we got answered questions, and a lot of it seems disjarring.
Yeah, no, Jonesy and I have been talking about that too. It's just, it continues. And
so
it doesn't take away from me liking the movie though. So don't get me wrong. I mean, I enjoyed the movie.
No, that's fine. It's listen, you can be constructive in your criticism and everything, but you can't be a jerk about it too. You know what I mean? Like look with me. Like I said, well, what would you have done, Mike? What would you have done to make it this, that, or the other? Well, I don't know. So what am I going to really complain about, right? So anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Here's the $1 million question then for you. Is she really a Skywalker at this point?
No, she is not. And I don't know why we even shoehorned that in there. But I get why he did it, because a lot of people complained, because I was one of those people that wanted Rey Sky, because I thought that ending at The Force Awakens suggested, hey, I'm your daughter, you deadbeat dad. Yeah. Where have you been? Let's resolve some issues here. But that didn't happen. So, okay, all right, that's not where we were going. That's not where Ryan wanted to go. All right, so I accepted that, right? So I'm like, all right, well, that's the way it is. Now, I get why she said she's not. It's like, the whole Hitler argument, I'm not going to keep that last name. I'm going to change it to something else so I don't have to deal with that baggage. So I understand that. But Leia's point to her, don't be ashamed of who you are.
She said, don't be afraid of who you are.
You know what I mean? Yeah, don't be afraid, basically, yeah. So just embrace it and go with it. So, I don't know. It's a little conflicting there, but I get why she said it, and it was kind of poetic at the end there.
Yeah, I mean,
I think she should have said Solo, to be honest, but,
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be said there for her being a Solo.
Which would have been ironic, because she would have been by herself, and, that would have caused even bigger. That would have caused the bigger thing. So maybe JJ made the right choice
instead
there.
Of saying Solo. Yeah, I mean, it really just goes back to that whole message, and this is not uncommon. It's the same thing with Finn and a number of other characters. That it doesn't matter where you are or where you come from. It's just whoever, where you're going forward, and you need to acknowledge your past. You can't let it die, if you will. You have to respect it. But at the same time, you get to kind of choose who you want to ultimately be as a person, and that includes in name. So for her, this was her way of saying and honoring, her masters that had come before her, honoring the legacy of the Skywalkers and what they were able to provide to the galaxy, and, all the good things, and maybe not focus on the bad things. And then, I think it was also a tribute to her relationship with Ben. He was the last living Skywalker. And, she could have easily said Solo, but then, like we've already talked about, that's not where it went. So,
yeah, no, this is where we are. So, okay. Yeah. I mean, I get why people like myself, I think it's just the baggage from the whole backlash of The Last Jedi, right? Where I'm like, oh, they're just shoehorning it in, right? And that's where I'm going to think for the next 5 years. And then one day I'll be like, yeah, all right, whatever, who cares, right? So, I mean, it is what it is. I accept it. It's fine. I don't really have a problem with her saying that. I think a lot of it's just that excess baggage from everything that happened with The Last Jedi, and me just saying, yeah, all right, cool, we'll go with it. That's what I wanted originally, so what's the big deal, right? So move on. And again, it's the whole Hitler thing. I'm not going to name myself, keep the last name Hitler. I'm going to change it to something else because of everything that happened. Why would I keep that name? And like you had said, you made your points about, what family is to her and how she chooses to go forward. So it wasn't a bad thing. So, it is what it is.
So last thing before we go, let's talk about what's next for Rey, because I mean, I don't think I'm on an island here saying that we would expect her at this point, and regardless if we see it or not, but let's just say, I think I'm not on an island in saying that more than likely she's going to start up a new order of some sort. I think things are going to be very different now, just because I have questions about whether or not things are going to be more balanced. Are we going to get, new colors of lightsabers? Are these new students going to have these new force powers that we've never seen? Are we going to get back to an era of, the golden age of like the old Republic in terms of the number of Jedi or force users and what they're able to do and that sort of thing? But do you think that's exactly where it's going? Or do you think she's going to take a different path and say, you know what, I'm not going to share this knowledge with her or everybody, or I'm going to take a more neutral path, or I'm going to keep this to myself? Now that, because I don't want to unbalance things.
Well, first off, technically speaking, and I'm basing this off of John and Daisy and and even Adam, what they said, they're pretty much done with it for now. 10 years from now, money talks, time passes, that type of thing. So I don't think we're going to see much of anything with these characters, because I don't think the Lucasfilm wants to get themselves cornered in a place where they can't be free of what they want to do with the story.
Yeah, and the question's really not about the actors. This question's about just the Rey as a character.
Well, the character. Yeah. Well, the character. I'm getting there. This is why I'm saying this, is because I don't think they're going to do anything where we're going to get these things filled in. I think we'll get a little bit of it, like maybe in the comics and a novel. I don't think what the movie suggested to me was that she isn't going to go that path of being a Jedi. I think she's going to be more of a neutral kind of thing. I don't think or maybe she's still trying to figure out where she wants to be as far as a Force user. We know she's got the saber. It's not the typical Jedi saber, right? It's more of a guardian thing. So I'm taking it as more of she's a guardian of just, whatever she comes across, like, whatever she's deeming to be, cruel or whatever.
Yeah, she's like a one woman army at this point.
Yeah. And I think, with even Finn in the mix too, she'll have some kind of people to train with. I don't know, because there's no real war anymore, right? It's all been, so who knows what the story group or whatever, where they want to go. This is why I have a trouble answering your question, Albert, is because I don't think they want to corner themselves in a story position where they have to be doing certain things, because they just kind of got themselves into that, right? With this last sequel trilogy with certain things, and they get all this craziness. So I don't know what we're going to, I don't know. I'm curious what you think. Well, what do you think? Because I think she's going the path of just living normal as life as she can, solitude kind of, and just kind of being at peace, so to speak. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think she's probably going to be a little bit more cautious in terms of, like, I think she wants to fulfill Luke's destiny, right? She says at the very beginning she wanted to go finish what Luke had started, and that was finding the Emperor and dealing with him, right? But I think it goes beyond that. I think she's still going to try to, in honor of Luke and Leia, revitalize a Jedi Order of some sort. And I'm using the word Jedi in air quotes because I'm with you. I don't think she's going to subscribe to the traditional rules and the Jedi code. I just don't think that's her.
I think it's more Ahsoka Ezra.
Yeah,
so
no,
to speak,
it's 100%. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's going to be, it's everything in balance, everything in moderation kind of thing.
Yeah, you could even argue Luke, to a degree, in The Last Jedi was kind of in that thinking, although he was more sullen and grumpy, or more the father.
Yeah, right. They both speak to it. Yeah. They maybe not in actions, but they were wised up to what was really truly needed from a Force user, right, and not one side or the other. But that's exciting because I think it opens up a lot of different things. It opens up, avenues for these quote Jedi to be more compassionate and to be more in tune with their feelings and emotions. Right? There's probably relationships is probably not a bad thing. I think that was the one thing that we learned about Luke Skywalker is, love was not a bad thing at all. It's ultimately what saved him. And saved his father. So I think all that's going to play into it. I think that's where I would see it. And I would say, yes, Finn is probably the likely candidate for somebody that she's going to take under her wing to kind of train initially. Maybe Broom Boy comes back and we get that. I don't know. No.
But listen, I'll say this, as I want to know what's going to happen, because there's two eras of this Star Wars that I'm most interested right now is post Return of the Jedi and post sequel trilogy now. So there's two areas that need to be filled. I just don't think we're going to get story-wise a lot for this because they don't know where they're going to go yet. And they just finished the sequel trilogy. So it's kind of like, let's let this rest a little bit and see where we go. And we'll come back to it another day, so to speak. But I think we'll get some kind of a novel that explains where the main characters of the sequel trilogy, Poe, Finn, and Rey, are kind of going. So we get some of those answers, what I mean? Which would be nice, because I think you could write a novel where it's not going to ruin anything 10 years down the line in the timeline or anything. It's just like maybe a few years after what's happened and, Rey rebuilding like a Jedi Order or something like that. So, I mean, I'm curious. Maybe she's just going to stay on Tatooine, redo the moisture farm, and just kind of chill out and hang out. Maybe we'll see the Mandalorian and her settle down.
Gosh,
I don't know.
No.
Hey, I'm just throwing a conspiracy theory.
Here's a final conspiracy theory for you.
Oh, geez.
So there's a part of me that thinks that because they didn't do Ben Solo right, that do you think there's any chance that she would go down the path of Anakin?
No.
And try to find him again?
No. we're not going there.
Why not?
No.
It's too.
No, we're not.
You got the world between worlds.
No.
Right?
No, we're not. No, we're not. And no, stop
I'm
it.
just saying.
If they do that, then I don't know what I'll do. I'll do something crazy, but they're not going to do it because they could have done it here and they didn't do it.
Well, yeah, they decided not to. But what if the next director comes around or somebody wants to write a novel?
Then if you're going to be world between worlds, what point in time is she going to go and save Ben?
From that moment, right before it happens.
Before he vanishes?
Yeah, because it doesn't work like time theory. It doesn't work.
But then that screws up his arc of dying and redeeming himself, right?
Well, he's already been redeemed.
Well, technically, yes, but that he doesn't get his Force Ghost pass.
No, he comes right. He gets he gets to be alive with her.
No, but then Rey's gonna see herself pulling him in. No, I don't like that at all. No, I don't like it because if they're not gonna do it for Luke, then they're not doing it for Ben. It's just not happening.
Well, if you like that, hit me up on Twitter. And
don't get me wrong. I like the world between worlds, and I had an argument with Formalis earlier today on Discord. I liked it, but it wasn't needed. That whole thing, just like the Obi-Wan versus Maul thing in Rebels wasn't needed, but hey, they did it. So okay.
Oh, you're saying the world between worlds isn't needed?
It wasn't.
No, I agree.
I don't think it was needed.
Jonesy and I talked about it when that episode came out. This is screwy. This is really, really a fine line that we don't necessarily want to walk because it opens up all kinds of crap.
Exactly
like this. But I'm saying if you're gonna go there, then if they do it, then I'm saying I'm gonna embrace it and say, okay, fine, let her go on a path where she's trying to bring him back to life, or not bring him back to life, but find him again in some way. I think there's something sweet about that, but that's just me.
No, yeah, that's you. They're not doing that. I mean, they will. The bond isn't dead, and I know they're going to be in communication again.
Yeah.
Unless he's truly at peace because he didn't show up to the homestead there. So I don't know. I mean, maybe he's like, yeah, whatever. I'm cool.
I'm gonna put it. So if I get some time, I'm going to Photoshop Mike Rondo's final picture of what the movie should have ended like.
Oh yes,
there's going to be all kinds of people in there, folks. Just wait.
Oh, you throw Boba Fett in there just for the hell of it too.
Baby
just
Yoda
throw
in there.
Him in there. Oh, of course. Yeah, you got to throw him in there.
Nice noodles.
No. You throw a Porg in there, I'm going to lose.
Everybody's in there.
I'm just saying. Yeah, of course. The whole just put everybody in there.
We'll end the show here because we're jumping the shark at this point. So, well, this is not the final word on Rey. My guess is obviously we're gonna have to interweave her since she's kind of like the main thread. We'll interweave her in between all these other ones here.
We'll do a character dissection of her. We can finally, with all that's happened, we can finally do a proper character dissection on the sequel trilogy characters now.
Yeah, and I think so. I guess final thoughts from me, and I'll turn it over to you for the final thoughts as well. But and we talked about this before we came on the air. The only thing that Rey is a character that I absolutely love, hands down. I loved her from the minute I saw her in The Force Awakens. John Williams goes on and on about how amazing Daisy Ridley is and the character Rey is. And I think he kind of speaks for all of us. We're just enamored with her. But at the same time, I have to say that, it doesn't feel like this movie ended as her movie. It feels this was more of Ben Solo's movie. It seems like there was more emphasis there. And don't get me wrong, because I really enjoyed that part, but it does feel like that did take away from her story in a lot of ways. And I think that's unfortunate given how strong her character was in part 7 and part 8. You made a great point, and I'll let you speak to this, but when I look at my daughter, I know when she watches this movie, that's all she's going to be focused on is Rey. Regardless of anything else, that's not what she's there for. She's not going to see all that. And that's very comforting because I think the character still resonates with young women and young men in that way. But me as a 40-something-year-old person, it does feel like she got shorted just a little bit. Would you agree?
Oh, I agree. I definitely agree with you. And here's the thing about anytime I'm critical of like even Rian Johnson or JJ or Daisy not Daisy. I wouldn't say critical of the character of Rey's character or Adam Driver's character with Kylo or Ben, whatever. It's not the actor or them. It's not a personal thing. I'm just going after the character. I'm not going after the character, but analyzing the character. And Rey, she was such a good character in The Force Awakens to me. There was so much hope and promise. The Last Jedi happens. Okay, we had some stuff happen, but then she kind of disappeared. And she wasn't the focal point in the end there. And she kind of just shows up and rescues everyone. All right. Here, she shined. But again, I kind of like you. I feel like she was supposed to be like Luke and like Anakin, but she was kind of, I don't know. It was weird. I feel like she got robbed of what she could have been. I think she could have been more. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I mean, I liked her character. I just wanted more, and I wanted, especially when she was talking to Luke, or even her best stuff was with Ben and her when they were going back and forth, or her and Luke. Actually, I thought where it fell flat was when she was with Leia. But that, again, I think that goes with Carrie Fisher's death and what happened, and they couldn't, they had what they had. So it just seemed, shortchanged it. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Again, over time, you rewatch these things and you look at things and you're like, okay, all right, that's fine. It's like the original trilogy and the prequel trilogies. When I started the show, you go back and watch things, you see things that you didn't see those years ago, and you're like, oh, all right, that makes more sense to us now. Like, you over time, things change your perspective and you kind of get a better understanding of things. So I'm hoping that happens here. But again, like I told you today with my daughter when we came on, like out of all the, and I'll say this, and I'll shut up after this, because this is the most special thing that happened to me in the 6 years that I've been breaking down characters and all these other things. And as much as I dislike the sequel trilogy and all the problems that have happened with it, the greatest moment I had was today with my daughter, when she's looking at Rey and she's worried about Rey, and Rey's calling out to all the Jedi, and then she hears all those voices. She hears Anakin, her face lit up. She hears Ahsoka, her face lit up. All the Jedi, and then Rey gets up and she was excited. Like her face lit up like I did when I was 8 years old when I saw Star Wars. So I'm like, you know what? I'm at peace with all this. It's fine. Star Wars lives. This little girl's happy. Little boys are going to be happy. And that's what matters at the end of the day. So, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Very well put, Mike. Good job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, every now and then I have a good one.
If you're still with us, you just missed it. If you're not, you just missed it. I agree. Couldn't have said it better. So, all right, we'll end it there. On the network, not a whole lot going on. We're kind of in a slow time because people on vacation, all that. But if you hadn't had a chance to listen to a Christmas Cantina, or Cantina Christmas, that is the new Patreon show that I did which is the Cantina radio show, but it's all Christmas music. So, believe it or not.
And it's the new holiday classic special for the Cantina cast. And no more me reading Chewie and the Porgs.
This is even better.
I hope so.
But yeah, there's a whole lot of music out there, believe it or not, where people have done Christmas music and Star Wars music together. And so you get a chance to kind of listen to some of that. It's only about, I think it's like 40 minutes long is that episode. And then for Patreon subscribers, I've already started working on the next episode. And I alluded to this, but it's going to be rap. So there is a ton of Star Wars rap, and I'm going to blow your minds with how much is out there. So that'll be out in January.
He did the whole Christmas one just to annoy me.
Absolutely.
So please go listen, because,
for shout outs, we had a lot of Discord people, which is not uncommon because usually when the movie comes out, we get a big bump in people jumping in Discord.
Yes, we do.
But let me see if I can get to these. Richie 555, Infinite Kill, Corey Set 1972, Call Me Tim, Obi John, Fan Solo, who's a Patreon subscriber as well. So thank you very kindly, sir. Peter 18, Matthew E, Trev.
I took that as Pytor.
Okay, well, let's go with Pytor.
Yeah, Pytor. Yeah. I'll get in trouble for mispronouncing these things. You know that, Albert. I always get yelled at.
Matthew E, Trev, Gambit, Blurst of Time, and Adam have all joined Discord. So hopefully you guys have settled in and found your way into some of the fruitful conversations that happen there on a daily, if not minute by minute basis. So thanks for joining. All right.
Yes, this has been fun.
Next up, The Rise of Ben Solo is the next episode.
Oh, the rise of Ben Solo. You mean Skywalker, right?
Oh,
Should we call him Ben Skywalker?
Yeah, well,
because they kept trying to say he's a Skywalker, but he's really a Solo. I don't know. Let's find out.
Let's not rehash that. So we'll be back.
Okay, tune in
next week to talk about that. Any final words before we go?
No, let's just get out of here.
We'll see you next week.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good fun stuff. But I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what. So that's your disclaimer.